Good evening, Des Moines, Iowa. Welcome to the Doc and Lefty program here on webcast1live.com in the beautiful downtown Des Moines Skywalk system. Yeah, I've tried to say Skynet, but that's from the Terminator. We're here every Tuesday from 6 to 7. I'm Lefty, and with me, as always, is my partner in crime. And, I don't know. There's a lot of other ablutions that I could label on this guy. But, Doc, how you doing?
I'm doing well. You know, we have a fire alarm going on out there, so it might have thrown your game off a little bit. But I will tell you, we like terminating bad politics right in this show. This is what we do.
So. I appreciate that. Yeah, you know, I walked in and it's one of those commercial fire alarms that they've got going that doesn't have it has the siren that's not that invasive, but then it also has a guy kind of panicking, telling you to get out of the building.
Yes, get out now.
Yeah, get out. Cease operations and all that stuff. So we're gonna continue the show at the risk of our own lives. That's how much we care about you, our listeners.
That is correct.
And if we do have to cut off, and this is actually slightly serious, we're pretty sure that it's a test. There's no trucks. No one's coming in here to tell us to get out. But if we do have to cut it short, we do apologize. There's some emergency, and we want to be able to make sure that we can bring this program to you each and every week. So, Doc,
absolutely.
You're doing all right.
I'm doing okay.
You're looking like you're bounced back from your vacation. What's on the mind? What's on the agenda for today's show?
Well, first of all, they had the doors locked downstairs, but Burger King was open. The fire alarm went off the moment I opened the door, right? So I thought I was going to have beat cops coming down. So anyway, well, I will tell you on tonight's agenda. Last Wednesday, I was out at the West Side Conservative Breakfast Club. And these are just a good group of guys who aren't necessarily Republican or Democrat. Most of them will vote primarily with their pockets. Sometimes you have the neocons come in. And they had a guy out there named Michael Bousselot. I think that's how you pronounce his name.
Yeah, Mike. Yeah, he's a classmate of mine.
No kidding.
Yeah, I went to law school with him.
Well, see if you can get him on the show. Because he states that he was one of the primary architects of Governor Branstad's new health care policy.
He's Governor Branstad's healthcare advisor, for sure. Yep.
Yeah. Well, I will tell you what, Blake, if you can get this guy on the show, I would love to have that happen. Because the only question really that was any kind of difficult for him was how many clinical physicians were consulted while you basically, generated this monstrosity. And it was the only, I haven't seen anybody gobble at an answer in a long time, but he definitely gobbled. And the answer is no, none. No clinical physicians were brought in to do this. He said it was a broad-based support. Now, for those of you who don't know, Obamacare has a lot of mandates out there. You can choose to engage in the exchange system. You can set up an exchange system. You can try to opt out of it. You can try to set up your own. And Governor Branstad, which has opted to set up her own, which I'm 100% for. I think the less that you can that you rely on the government for your funding, the more stable your funding is going to be, and the more consistent your treatment options are going to be over the long haul. No healthcare system is perfect. I know that. What they're basically going to do here in Iowa is they're going to go back to what in the old days, right after the Clintonistas try to take over healthcare, it's called the carve-out system, which is, Blake, they call him covered lives. So Blake, he's young, he's healthy. His covered life is going to be worth, let's say, $500 a year to that individual. And every physician will have a certain panel of patients. I'm older. I'm not nearly as good a shape as Blake is. So they're going to give me the same, my physician, the same $500 to make sure I remain healthy. And they're going to focus on wellness. They're going to focus on preventative medicine. They're going to focus on, reimbursing doctors to do screening tests earlier, right? And I believe all that is good, is well-intentioned. The wellness part of it has been shown repeatedly not to give you the results you would think, but it instinctively sounds good. Intuitively, it sounds good. Here's where the problem is. Blake over here takes reasonably good care of himself. He doesn't smoke. He doesn't drink all that much. He does it reasonably. He doesn't go out of his way to eat candy and pie and Snickers bars and everything else 4 times a day. He tries to keep himself in shape. Me, on the other hand, I am old. I am fat. I've suffered several injuries throughout my life that create problems for me. I have diabetes. If Blake and I have the same physician, it's going to cost that physician a lot more to keep me healthy than it is for Blake. I've already made lifestyle changes, and the reason, for the most part, that I'm having trouble with diabetes is my lifestyle. Blake isn't going to probably develop diabetes because he's watching out. The problem with the carve-out system is my doctor gets the same amount of money to keep me healthy as Blake gets. And what that essentially means is if a doctor is looking at his bottom line, which he has to in order to be able to feed and clothe his children, to send his children to college, to be able to keep the doors open of his practice, he's going to look at Blake and go, you know what, I'm going to keep Blake as a patient because really he doesn't even come in once a year, and I can keep that $500 and not have to expend any money. The problem is the amount of money that the physician gets covers all care. So if Blake goes into the hospital, the amount of money that the hospital charges comes out of the money the doctor gets to keep Blake healthy. If he's on medications, it comes out of that money that Blake needs to keep healthy. So obviously the doctor is going to keep Blake and he's going to fire me. Well, then I try to go to a different doctor. I still am only worth $500 and he looks at all the problems I have. That's the problem with the carve-out method. And the governor's plan goes one awful step further. If I don't get better, the physician gets penalized monetarily. That's a terrible idea. We're already short physicians here in Iowa, terribly short. We have a tax system that punishes people that want to move into the state professionally. We have an income tax rate that is really one of the highest in the nation. So if you want to practice medicine here, you get to pay at least an extra $20,000 a year just to be in Iowa. If you go to South Dakota with similar weather, and Blake's from up there, why not go to South Dakota and keep that extra $20,000? Or better yet, go to Florida and keep that extra $20,000. So we're driving physicians away by punishing them for behavior of their patients that is beyond the control of the physician. Today, I had a pretty decent lunch. On Sunday for Father's Day, my mom made this great, I like this grape jello she makes. Well, I had a bunch of that. Well, it's going to set my diabetes off. That's a decision that I made. Yet my physician, under Branstad's new policy, the physician is going to be punished for a decision that he has no control over. Now, how many physicians do you think are going to, or even with the carve-out system, you still have physicians who would take on a patient like me? How many do you think are going to take on problem patients now?
You know what, Doc?
None of them.
We're going to get back to that. We're going to go back and answer that question here on the second segment, and I'm going to jump in and explain why your panic is misplaced. So, not to defend Governor Branstad's awful healthcare plan or anything like that, but this is Lefty, Doc, and Lefty will be back right after these messages.
Petrosh & Associates, how can I help you?
Petrosh & Associates will provide you with a friendly, caring, and confidential place to find help for mental health concerns. We are ready for your call. Our doctor, Dr. J. Patrick Petrosh, provides a full range of psychiatric services for children, adolescents, and adults in a forthright and informative manner while maintaining a casual, comfortable, and relaxed atmosphere.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast 1 Live.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to the Doc and Lefty program here this evening. We're talking about some local political matters. We promised you a few weeks ago a local politics show, and at least for this first half hour, we're going to discuss some of this stuff, especially the healthcare program that got signed into law just recently as part of the big three: the property tax reform, the Medicaid expansion, and the school reform that the Governor Branstad really had as his three-legged stool. And every legislator in the state and every a member of the cabinet, the governor's staff and cabinet, were going around patting themselves on the back, saying we've got divided government, and yet we can get things done better than Washington D.C. And we're kind of delving into some of that a little bit right now. And as Doc spent the first segment of the show pointing out some of the problems with healthcare, and really, Doc, what I was hearing from you is, aside from the specific criticisms that you have with the new law, which, you know, I will defer obviously to your expertise as a healthcare person, but a lot of it sounds like, you know, I think the common response would be, well, Doc, healthcare, you always have a problem with healthcare reform, no matter what it comes to. We had these debates long before on the first show, and even when we were taking breaks about Obamacare and the Affordable Care Act, and how the priorities were mixed up, and how any sort of reform is impossible, and how government being involved at all is a big problem. And so I'm hearing, you know, shadows of that in this recent critique. But the question that I wanted to ask you is, if we're still in a fee-for-service based system, where doctors are not they're not charging for outcomes, they're charging for services. They're, you know, $50 for a shot here, $150 for an MRI here, or whatever it happens to be. So if a person who's sick, in your scenario that you set up in the first segment, would require logically more services, can't the doctor recoup some of the expense that way, even though he's being reimbursed the same?
Well, part of Iowa still is under a fee-for-service. The people with private insurance is still basically fee-for-service. Most of Medicare initially is still going to remain fee-for-service, where you go through, you have a procedure code and diagnostic code. The problem is with Healthy Iowa. Is it the Healthy Iowa Care?
It went through a couple different names,
yeah,
but it's something along those lines. In fact, here, why don't you talk about it for a second? I'll pull the name up so I don't have it wrong.
The problem is they have some good things in there, you know, people that are 140% of poverty pay I think it's $10 copay. Those at 100% of poverty pay a $20 copay, so at least they're vested in the services that they receive. The problem is they still only get one lump sum. I forget, they really haven't announced what that number is, but basically it's whatever that number is the amount of money that's going to be paid to all providers for that patient for that year. So let's say they give me a panel of 100 patients, and they each, let's say they give us each $1,000 per covered life. If you're just talking psychiatry, you know, I understand that sounds like a big chunk of money, $100,000. But when you start taking into consideration that most of these people that are going to be on this system are chronically mentally ill, and we're just talking just psychiatry now. When you're talking about a $1,500 to $2,000 a day stay, and these people frequently are in the hospital for a solid 3 weeks a year, it's very easy to have one bad patient go through that $100,000. If you have a 10-day hospital stay, that's 1/5 of the income you get to cover 100 people on just one person. And so the problem really boils down to, this is not a fee for service. They have taken that away and replaced it with the old carve out. And the problem with that is now you give physicians an incentive. You have incentivized physicians to get rid of problem patients, because keep in mind, physicians can terminate a relationship for just about any reason as long as they give notice. You can have a financial conflict and be able to terminate a patient. That's allowed, and universally that's allowed.
Now the goal is and you mentioned Michael Buslow at the top of the show, who was a classmate of mine in law school, actually, and he was one of the advisors on this healthcare law. And I listened to a lot of the interviews that he gave with River to River and other news programs on Iowa Public Radio, and what the governor stresses and what Mike would talk about, and pretty much responds to every question. I'm sure that you heard about this at your breakfast club. Was they want to get healthy outcomes. Healthy outcomes is the goal. Healthy outcomes or better outcomes, I should say. Better outcomes, healthier Iowans. They want to be the healthiest state in the country, so on and so forth. And so my question would be, now, a lot of this expands the coverage. On the old Iowa Care program, you could only, if you were on Iowa Care, you could only go to Broadlawns or the University of Iowa. And I'll tell you what, when I'm being from Northwest Iowa, if you live up in Westfield or Okoboji and have to drive all the way to either Broadlawns, which is a good 5.5 hour, 6 hour drive, or to the University of Iowa, which is another 8 hours to get to a doctor's office, that was an unworkable system. Now, this new program does away with a lot of that and allows for doctors closer to the patients to be able to get services, I believe. I think that they did away with that, and so they can reimburse doctors closer to folks. Now, that is a significant savings and promotes better outcomes, doesn't it?
It certainly does. But one of the things that people don't understand is doctors are human too. We worry about our bills. We worry about how we're going to keep our staff paid. And the problem, and I'm all for this. I'm all for expanding healthcare, helping the needy, helping those that are, at 140, 150% of poverty level. I understand that. It's tough to make. You can't drive 5 hours to get health care. But the solution is not the carve-out system, all right? But we have already tried that. It has failed miserably. In fact, hardly any insurance company offers any kind of carve-out system anymore. Simply because doctors won't participate in it. The second thing is when you essentially make the physician responsible for patient behavior, there's a ton of variables that go into that. Again, let's talk a little bit about nursing homes.
Well, right? Before we get to that, I wanted to, because we're coming up close to another break, and I wanted to just ask you one quick question, because we don't have to spend a lot of time on it.
Okay.
But the one national piece, or the one piece of the legislation that got national news, was the last minute amendment that House Republicans got added on to the bill before the governor signed it, that switched the authority from DHS to the governor to decide whether or not he wanted to fund Medicaid covered abortions in Iowa that were, with the exceptions of rape, incest, life of the mother, which were currently covered under Medicaid. And he signed that. And what that amendment did is it gives the governor the sole discretion on whether to approve such Medicaid expenditures. Now, I understand. I already have a feeling I know what your take on that little measure is going to be, and I already know what my take on that measure is going to be. So I'm just going to, after the break, I'm going to come back and I'll ask you a political question about whether or not you think this is going to affect the run in 2014, and is it going to really, is it going to have any political effect on the Branstad administration at all? But we're going to go to
and speaking of politics, we're going to kind of skip this commercial break.
Oh,
sorry, I should have let you know.
No problem.
Now remember, one of our sponsors is
That's why you're first on the
yes, there you go,
on the billboard.
One of our sponsors is the Polk County GOP, and Ryan Keller and Daryl Carney do a great job doing fundraising. And I'm proud that they're advertising on our show. I just want to point out to people that there is a golf outing, the Robert D. Ray second annual golf outing at Willow Creek. Have you ever been to Willow Creek down there?
Willow Creek? No, I haven't.
Oh man, it is beautiful. It's right off the end of 63rd Street. It's just a nice golf outing. Anyway, they're having the second annual Governor Ray golf outing on Monday, this upcoming Monday. I believe it's the 24th. It's a shotgun tee-off time. It begins at 8 a.m. If you want details, you can go to polkgop.org and get all the details and get signed up. The second thing our second group of sponsors is Des Moines Anesthesia. And they have an office down here in Des Moines and an office up in Fort Dodge. So they have fairly good coverage. So if you're not, like, let's say you live in Ames, you know, there's not a lot of pain docs up in Ames. At least Fort Dodge is much closer than Des Moines. And so they have a couple of convenient offices. Dr. Iqbal is the lead pain management specialist here in Des Moines, and Dr. Kent Krosky is the lead pain management specialist up in Fort Dodge. And I forgot their contact info, but we'll be back. Well, after this next break, hopefully I'll have that contact info for you. But anyway, I appreciate everybody tuning in. I appreciate all of our sponsors. Now back to your political question.
It was the one, obviously, every time abortion gets mentioned in any legislation, I assume that our good friend of the show, Tom Shaw, had something to do with that amendment kind of sneaking in. And not to throw Tom under the bus, because we love having him here, and he's obviously free to have any amendment that he wants. I don't know if he actually if he wrote the thing, but I'm sure that he supported it. But the first thing that was criticized about it was that it kept everybody over. Like, they could have wrapped up the session earlier than they actually did, but they had to debate that amendment. But anytime that abortion is mentioned, obviously going to pick up national news, and it's got national coverage. Is this one little chunk of the healthcare bill, the new healthcare law, and not to diminish both sides, but I'm curious to know what the governor was thinking. Why he didn't, before the thing was voted on, he didn't go to the leadership and say, "Are you kidding me? I've got to run. I mean, I'm going to beat the pants off anybody who runs against me, but this is going to make me have to raise more money to fight off the pro-choice people. What are you doing, putting this in my signature healthcare legislation a year before I got to start running for re-election?" And so I'm wondering about the political implications for the governor, because he signed it. It's now his issue, and he's going to have to sort of accept the political consequences if there are any. What do you think?
I think, now, one, I don't believe any single power that impacts an individual so personally should really be held in the power of one man. Be it the governor or DHS. I believe that is that's just what I believe. The second thing, whether this is going to hurt Governor Branstad or not, I don't think it is. I think this is going to help solidify the conservatives behind him. Whenever Governor Branstad has run, he's been criticized for being, quote, pro-gay marriage, end quote. He's been criticized for being pro-abortion. He's been criticized for not being conservative enough. I remember I was at an event where he announced his candidacy. And, of course, he gets up there, and Governor Branstad, God bless him, is not a very good public speaker. And he got up there and kind of muffled through it a little bit, and the blogosphere erupted. I see you have Shane Vanderhart listed there at the top. I don't know if that's your writing or not, but Shane was one of the people that really lambasted the governor. Steve Dace got on the governor. Kevin Hall, who I ran into the other day, last Thursday, lambasted the governor for not being conservative enough. And I think that this is a very slick way that he can get the conservative base rallied again behind him, along with being able to heal some of the rift between the libertarians and the conservatives.
Well, I'm going to stop you. Well, it's certainly not going to do any favors to the libertarians, because it gives them king-like power in this one particular regard, which is what you just sort of criticized. But what I will say is this: Governor Branstad doesn't need to shore up anything. He's the incumbent governor who has got one of the better approval ratings in the country for the way that Iowa has weathered the storm. Yeah. And brought some, he's taking credit for all these new businesses that he's brought in, and taking some heat a little bit for some of the tax dollars he's given away to folks like the
Facebook.
Yeah, well, he should get more criticism for Facebook, but he doesn't. but no, like the fertilizer plant in Southeast Iowa and all these different other things. But so he's not going to get primaried. he doesn't have to shore up the conservative
You
base.
don't think the Democrats put somebody up?
No.
Oh,
Branstad
no.
doesn't. He's not going to get. He's not.
You're
gonna
right, you're right.
He's not going to get a primary challenge from the right on this.
No.
And so what the right is going to come out and vote for him anyway. Maybe not in as big a number. He's never gotten a lot of that vote, but he's always been able to rely on the middle of the road purple folks. And there's a lot of them in the state, and there's a lot of them in a lot of different key counties. We talked about north central Iowa. We talked about northeast Iowa, where there's a lot of Democrats. We've talked about the Iowa Cedar Rapids corridor, labor, a lot of Democrats. So I'm wondering is if the Democrats are able to make this an issue that, hey, you signed our compromise legislation at the and it could be a backlash too because they let it go. But if the Democrats can make some hay and say, look at this guy. This is the guy that we used to trust to be fairly middle of the road, Terry Branstad, going around signing stuff that you see Scott Walker and doing in Wisconsin. We can't have this guy for a 6th term or 5th term, whatever it is. No, 6th term. He's running for a 6th term. Have this guy in for a 6th term. That's just crazy, especially with a guy like Tyler Olson, I think, is running for Bruce. He's going to run for Bruce Braley's seat, but he's also thinking about making a run for the governor's house too. Mike Gronstal is considering running against him, and Mike Gronstal, I feel like he's got enough connection, he's got enough push that he could at least make a little bit of flop sweat, but probably not beat the governor.
I don't know. I think Gronstal's got a real good chance at being able to put together enough money in an election team to at least give Branstad a run for his money. Now, last week we talked a lot about the Christian conservatives, that focus a lot more on social issues. Having the money, right? You need money to be able to run a campaign. And like it or not, Christian conservatives, for the most part, are the ones that fund a lot of the Republican campaigns. So I think that Branstad is really just trying to figure out a way to keep the coffers open. The other thing I'm going to say is, you heard it here first on this show. I know the governor hasn't officially announced, but he's running. I know he's running. And so I think that any speculation that he might not run, I don't think is. Yeah, it's obvious that he's going to run. To me,
I thought that all the signs were there 6 months ago. This wasn't going to be an issue. He's going to be 67 years old, but he's in really good shape.
Yep.
He obviously can still get some things done on the at the state house. The problem that I have with him is the problems that I always had with him is that he's a guy. He's got 1980s ideas about how to run this state. And he's taking credit for a lot of the things that were set up for him over the last 12 years. Now, I'm not going to sit here and laud the Chet Culver administration, but a lot of the stuff that happened with Iowa economic development was set up by Tom Vilsack. So the issue here, though, at least that we were talking about was the political ramifications. You don't think there's going to be a lot. I don't know that it was such a minor story that didn't get as much national play as a person would think. I don't know that he necessarily. I think people will forget about it by the time the campaign really kicks off next winter.
I agree.
Now we're coming up on the half-hour mark. I'm going to take another actual quick break and listen to some of the sponsors that help us run this beautiful studio and pay our wonderful producer salary. So please pay attention to them. And we will be back after a short pause. This is Doc and Lefty, Webcast 1 Live. Thank you.
Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershot.
I am administrative mmanager.
I am the senior technician
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
If we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, it's your home.
It's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're gonna do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's gonna be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're gonna do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed right or it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
I mean, if you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you going to say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're going to be listening. They're going to want to know what your challenges are. Then they're going to come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you know, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? I mean, you can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me, but is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going though, I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm going to take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed right or it's free or 100% money back.
enough said.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We're in the second half hour. We just want to remind everyone that's tuning in that maybe didn't catch the top of the show that we are here every Tuesday from 6 until 7. In fact, I think a couple of weeks ago when we had to do a little bit of a reboot, we still put a show up there, so we apologize for that. It's just kind of a one-time thing. We try and be here with the new, a fresh take on what's been going on in the world. One of the things that I want to talk about before this half hour is up, before we're in the show, a little bit is kind of the developments with Syria. I think Doc and I agree that funding and sending weapons to the rebels in Syria is the wrong decision. It's the stupid decision. The only reason that we have to do it now is because of the red line bullcrap. Now, I put this squarely on the seat, squarely in the lap of the Hawk Republicans in the House and the Senate, because the president walked right into the trap. He walked right into it because Democrats have this knee-jerk reaction that they think that they need to look tough on foreign affairs, on any sort of like war policy whatsoever. This is Iraq all over again. Mark my words.
It's worse than Iraq. I want to tell you why it's worse than Iraq. One, we don't have any vested interest at all anywhere in Syria. They don't have any oil. They do fund terrorism, but you know, they don't have giant terrorism cells. Those that are interested, I've done several shows on AQ Con. You can go back and look that up. The problem is they said, well, if chemical weapons are used, that's going to be a red line for us. Well, the problem is it was the rebels that we want to support that used the chemical weapons first.
Well, I'll jump in there though, because the report that when the president announced over the weekend, the reports were that the Assad regime had done it. Now,
now this last weekend, I agree, but what, it was about a month ago, 6 weeks ago?
He's been doing it this entire time, is what they've said. And that's what the Brits. That's what the British intelligence said. That's the French said. In fact, the president was under immense pressure from the British, the French, and the Israelis to get involved with this for months and months and months, saying, "Hey, this is all the intelligence that we've got." And he's been doing this stuff in localized small areas for the last several months. Now, I'm not saying that disapproving of the use of chemical weapons against the population is wrong. What I'm saying is that going out and telling everybody that the Assad regime using them is a red line, and that we're going to start shipping weapons over to the rebels who are affiliated with terrorism, who have terrorist cells in them, who had a guy kill somebody and then eat his liver, It's just all of this stuff. It's too complicated for us to really get involved in. And you hear Lindsey Graham on the Sunday shows this weekend saying, "Oh, well, we'll be able to tell who the good guys are and who the good guys aren't."
No, I'm going to tell you, this is, if we get involved in Syria, it's going to be a reignition of the Cold War. So far, we won the Cold War, but it was still around simmering. The resurgence of Russia and its willingness to bully its neighbors and its willingness to stand up to the U.S., and it's particularly in Syria, where Putin has directly said, we're going to arm Assad and we're going to try to keep him in power. And if you interfere with this, we're going to take that personally. When you have the Russians saying that, all you're going to do is reignite the Cold War. The bottom line is we can beat any nation on the face of the planet militarily. But as we just saw, you can't do a nation building, and that's what we're going to have to do if we get involved in Syria. Plus, we're going to be supporting the wrong person like we did in China, the wrong person like we did in Vietnam, and we're just going to have a big, giant mess.
There is no right person to support.
There isn't anybody over there that's going to support democracy.
Assad's a thug, and the rebels don't know what they're doing and have Sunni terrorists on their side. You have the Alawite sect in Syria being supported by Hezbollah, which is a Shia militia from Lebanon that's getting money and weapons from Iran. We're going to step into a proxy war with Iran. Russia is playing it. I mean, Putin is doing whatever, what he does all the time. Russia is not. I don't believe that they're arming Assad at this point. They're just saying, "Hey, stay out of it." Iran is actively arming the regime. We know all that already.
And the other thing is the Israelis have stopped several Russian shipments of arms to Syria. Stratfor.com, I talk about that all the time. Mm-hmm. These people are better informed than the CIA. Honest to God, that's what I believe. And that's what they've reported, that that the Israelis have intercepted Russian shipments of arms. There's no upside to this. The British and the Europeans want peace there in the region because they're the ones that are most affected by it. One of the other things you have to keep in mind is the major supplier of oil and gas to Europe is Russia. And in fact, when Russia and Ukraine kind of had this falling out here a couple of years ago, Europe suffered brownouts and, suffered an energy crisis because there just wasn't any. Part of this may be that they're trying to draw us back into being involved as being the big brother and going up against the Russians to secure their energy policy. That's one of the ideas floated around out there, but there's no reason for us to be involved at all in any way in Syria. And just about everybody I've ever talked to that knows anything militarily understands that this is going to be a lose-lose situation.
Then you obviously haven't talked to our good friend John McCain, who stepped on the president's announcement, but only to say, well, we're not doing enough. Hey, thanks for sending some guns over there, but what does he want? He wants a no-fly zone, probably. Troops
he did call for that.
Troops on the ground. It's just,
it's incredible.
I can't even, you know what? I'm glad that we're coming up at the end of this segment because I got to collect myself. It's an idiotic decision. We've seen this movie before. It cost us thousands of lives, billions of dollars, and the same government that we set up in Iraq is letting Iran ship weapons through the country.
Yeah. Remember I've talked a lot about the cultural psychology of the Middle East and how we don't understand it? Perfect example. We don't understand the cultural psychology of this area. So what makes us think that we can change it? We can't. All we can do is lose more boys. That's all there is to it.
Go ahead.
Yeah. We're going to talk a little bit more about Polk County GOP. They're the ones that support our show, our show. And we're grateful for them for their support. We think they do a great job at forwarding Republican ideas, good Republican ideas. And Daryl Carney and Ryan Keller do a great job of fundraising. They have a fundraiser on Monday. June 24th. It's a shotgun golf tournament. Starts at 8 a.m. at Willow Creek, which is a beautiful golf course. They also have an auction going on at noon where you can auction basically a dinner with the governor, lieutenant governor, the majority whips, the majority and minority leaders. So it's really going to be a great program. The other thing is we have Des Moines Anesthesia that has agreed to support us as well. They have 2 offices, one in Fort Dodge, one in Des Moines. The number in Des Moines is 244-3700. And I think we spelled anesthesia wrong, but that's okay. Well, Frank is young and,
No, I think that's right.
Think that's right? Well, I'm reading it backwards. So, anyway, give them a call if you're having problems with chronic pain, not satisfied with the care you're given. If you want an alternative, they do well as far as alternative medicines instead of just opiates and the rest of it. So please give them a call at 244-3700, and that's Des Moines Anesthesia. Now back to Blake, and what are we going to talk about next segment? Because I agree with you, Syria gets me fired up. Yep. That is the dumbest thing we can do.
And you got a guy this slightly left of Karl Marx and a guy slightly right of Ronald Reagan agreeing on this. It just but because at the base of it doesn't matter if we're blue or red, we're still we're still Americans, and we don't want to see more boys lost in a
needlessly
stupid, asinine endeavor like this. Let's talk Senate race.
Iowa?
Yeah.
All right.
Let's talk Senate race now.
Because in Vermont, there's a Senate race going on that's pretty. Gabriel Gomez.
Yes. That's in Massachusetts.
Massachusetts. Apparently, that thing is neck and neck. And I want to say he's up against Dick Durbin, but I don't think that's true.
No, Dick Durbin is a senator from Illinois. No, he's up against Markey.
That's right.
Markey.
Yeah, that's a neck and neck race.
Who just got the endorsement of like the major Latino newspaper up there.
Oh,
Markey did over
Gabriel
Gomez. It's an interesting race, but I think that Gomez has had, well, I don't know how to score it. I haven't really been paying much attention to it, but the Senate race, first of all, for Tom Harkin's old seat is starting to gear up. We got a few people that have declared. Matt Whitaker's in.
Yes.
David Young, sorry. David Young's in. Sam Clovis is in. You know Sam from Sioux City?
No, I don't know.
Sioux City radio personality Sam Clovis, ultra conservative Tea Party darling Sam Clovis is in. I know I've got a bunch of conservative friends from up there still, from Northwest Iowa. They're all about this guy. He's pretty popular up there. So I don't really make it my job, even though my journalistic ethics and integrity are above reproach, and we all know this. But I haven't taken the time to read his platform. I imagine that it's no amnesty for illegal aliens, no abortions for anybody, and give all your money to the corporations. I assume that's pretty much what the platform is going to be. But so those are the 3 declared. The interesting person that hasn't come out and declared yet, I don't believe, and I could be wrong about this. I couldn't confirm it before coming on the show. Jody Ernst. What's she waiting for?
I don't know what she's waiting for.
She is the candidate that I've heard the Braley campaign is nervous about. Not because they're pretty confident that they can pull this out, and I'm pretty confident that they're going to beat any contender that comes out. But it'll split the Democrats if a good woman Republican. Not like I guess as opposed to a bad one, but a good female Republican comes out and runs a competent race, will split the Democrats. Because I'll tell you this, Democrats in Iowa, we want a national woman in the Congress. We're ready for it. We it's us in Mississippi that have never elected a woman to Congress or to any national office. We're ready. We want one, and if the Republicans get one in the Senate race, I'll tell you this: we're gonna throw somebody up in the House race for Braley's seat. I can tell you that right now, or they'll try to. At least there's some women that are thinking about running for that. But 3 pretty conservative guys: David Young, aide Chuck Grassley, Sam Clovis, a very conservative radio talk show host. We don't know any of those guys around this neck of the woods. No. And Matt Whitaker, very conservative ex-U.S. attorney. Score the field a little bit for us, Doc.
Yeah.
Give us some perspective.
Well, I can't score it. I've run into Matt a couple of times. He probably doesn't even remember me. He went out golfing with a buddy of mine yesterday, and he's apparently agreeable to come on the show. I would like to have that. I want to extend an invitation to anybody out there who's running for any office, Republican or Democrat. Come on the show. Let us meet you. We'll talk about it. We're really not a hostile show. We just want to find out about you. We want to ask you some tough questions, but we don't do gotcha stuff. So you're welcome to come on the show. Matt Whitaker, he went on Simon Cowell's show, and Simon's he's a pretty fair guy, but he's very conservative. I'm assuming a lot like this Clovis fella. And when Matt was asked, what do you think about the fair tax? That is a basic question you need to know the answer to, and it didn't seem like he knew the answer to that. So it's one of those things where I think he's going to have to brush up on some stuff. I've heard a lot of good things about Matt. A lot of people seem to like him. Clovis, I'm going to tell you the problem with Clovis, and I don't even know him, is the fact that he's a radio personality, and he's going to face the same problem that Herman Cain did, and that is when you're not in politics, you live your life the way you want, and sometimes that's not the best way. Plus, on radio, and you and I both know this, you have a tendency to say things that will get people to listen, and the problem is that doesn't go over well sometimes out on the campaign trail. And who is I forgot
David Young. He worked for Chuck Grassley.
Yes. The problem with David Young is that he hasn't scored Chuck Grassley's endorsement, and that's standard procedure for Chuck. And nobody has been able, out of all three of them, nobody has been able to land a giant fundraiser like Daryl or Nicole Schlinger, who's the other big one that we named.
Well, I'm looking at some of the reporting that's been going on about this, and it looks like Joni Ernst might be ready to go, but the Hill blog says that Grassley starts fundraising for David Young.
Really?
That broke this morning.
Oh, wow. Well, I did have a busy day. I wasn't able to catch up on a lot of stuff.
He's going to be a special guest at two fundraisers that David Young, that was reported by the Register. Yeah, that'll be a huge thing for David Young. I think that David Young is going to be knowledgeable about the issues facing Iowa. But the problem is when you work out in D.C., and I had this experience, you become insulated from really what's going on back home. So it's really going to come down to if David can connect with the voters. A lot of people, particularly libertarians, may view him as an insider and not want to have him around. And the Tea Party is really not. They do not. Despite what the Democrats say, the Tea Party is not dead, and they do wield a lot of power, as do the Libertarians. And neither one of them like an insider or perceived insider. We're going to be back right after the break. We want to thank everybody for tuning in. Please listen to our sponsors. You're listening to Doc and Lefty every Tuesday from 6 to 7 p.m. here on webcast1live.com.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Whether you're 10, 25, 50, 80 years old and beyond, everyone needs to live within their means. I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America. For almost a quarter of a century, we've helped people of all ages learn to manage their personal finances to benefit them far into the future. When problems arise, we've got the experience you need to make those debt problems go away. Got financial problems? Call Consumer Credit of America.
If Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of America was your personal webmaster, Tom would filter out all bad debt emails. If Tom was your mailman, you'd never get any debt reduction junk mail. If Tom Coates was a lineman, he'd block any phone calls offering to reduce your credit card debt.
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America, and we're still your best choice for credit counseling. We're local, we're accountable, and we can do more. You make the call when the time's right for you.
When it comes to competition, there really is none for Consumer Credit of America.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. We're in the home stretch of the program today. We kind of discussed a wide range of topics, which is what I really like to do, and I really like to dig into some of this political stuff. We're talking about the Republican side of the 2014 Senate race for Tom Harkin's old seat. Senator Harkin is calling it quits after decades of public service, and we certainly appreciate him for that, especially on the Democratic side. I mean, the one thing that I would say from a just a meta political standpoint is I don't know what the heck is going on with the U.S. Senate and the Democratic organization of the U.S. Senate, with all these key Democrats retiring all at the same time. I don't know if they are taking their talents to South Beach or what, but we really couldn't afford to have these guys leaving in 2014. It's going to be a bloodbath. I'm really, especially with President Obama's poll numbers the way they are, the Democrats are going to have a really tough time. But, you know, it's early still. We got a lot of time. There's plenty of time for the Republicans to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. But we're the Senate race right now, it's still unsettled on the Republican side. Democrats, obviously, no one is. Bruce Braley came out, did exactly what you need to do. Came out, took his stake, made it known that he's got the backing, he's got the fundraisers ready to go, he's got the infrastructure. No other Democrat came out to challenge him for that seat. Now, I think that Bruce would do a heck of a job on the Senate side of things. I think he's done a heck of a job for his district over the last 4 years that he's been up there. I think 4 years, 6 years.
For a while. Too long.
4 years, I think.
He's been up there too long.
And I think he's gonna do a good job. The field on the other side of the aisle, we have, I believe, 3 declared candidates. And State Senator Joni Ernst is probably going to run. A.J. Spiker has been messing around with the idea. Matt Schultz, the Secretary of State's been messing around with the idea. Matt Schultz
says he's not running.
Oh, did he say that he's not running?
Yeah, I don't think he's not going to run.
Sam Clovis, who we were talking about briefly, is this radio guy, and we're talking about a guy cut from the same cloth that Rush Limbaugh was cut from. I got some quotes here from the IowaRepublican.com. Anyone that knows me will tell you that what I say, I believe, and I believe what I say. I'm not going to equivocate. You're going to get blunt answers from me. That may come back to haunt me, but that's how I see things. He was on to say, all you know what these are. This is my NRA card. This is my concealed carry permit. Okay.
What, you're going to blast him for having a concealed carry permit?
Nope. I'm not going to blast him for anything along those lines. What I am going to say is that as a candidate, and Doc, back me up because you've been a candidate.
I have said those very same words, and they are destructive.
Blow
to you.
Your chances before you even get on the field, because have you ever heard a politician do this? And folks, I know that you have. I believe what I say what I believe, and I believe what I say. And I'm going to tell you these 9 things that completely contradict everything that I said that I believed on this other interview 2 weeks ago across the country. That's how politicians operate. Okay, they bloviate. They make up new sorts of logical connections between things that no one would ever have put together before, because the whole idea is to tell everybody everywhere what they want to hear. They are the worst example of a generic rock band because they want to be pleasing to everybody. And so the guys that come out who take these strong stances, and I'm not meaning to mock anybody, but that's what it always sounds like to me when I hear, I imagine this rough and tumble kind of guy saying this kind of stuff. Whenever they come out and they say that I'm going to stand on my principles and the consequences be damned, guess what? Those consequences damn them to a loss. Doc, you've been there. You know what I'm talking about.
I've been there, and I've been there, learned my lesson, and I don't think that's going to be I think that you need to speak from the heart and be honest and genuine with people, but you also need to be able to couch your phraseology in such a way that people can hear. And that was a mistake that I made, trying to make a point, and my phraseology, I should have thought more about my phraseology. And that's the problem he's going to have. Bruce Braley's seat, you have Steve Rathje, who I think runs perennially for something somewhere, and he's running up there. I don't know of any other Republicans at the time. Do you know of any of the Republicans?
There are a lot. There are a lot out there, but I'll just pull that. I'll just pull that up really quick.
You bet. Well, the problem up in Northeast Iowa is Marionette Miller Meeks ran up there twice, and the problem up there is if you're new and nobody knows you, you can split it. But as soon as you're in there, as soon as the unions know that you are their man or woman, as the case may be, they solidify behind there. It doesn't matter. Ben Lang ran against, almost beat Braley 4 years ago. Ran last year, and it was such a bitter contest that my brother Joe hung up a Ben Lang sign, and people would come by, spray paint his fence, tear down his sign, and did all kinds of dirty mischief. The problem is Ben Lang lost by a landslide. He didn't even get close, and that's because the unions closed rank right in behind Ben Lang. The other thing is it was a presidential year, which always helps the incumbent party. It always does. And so, there's a lot of variables going in. Even though District 1, Congressional District 1 is overall a very conservative district, you have Cedar Rapids, which is almost entirely manufacturing and therefore union. And then you also have Iowa City, which is exclusively union. Everybody there is dependent on the teachers union of some kind. And of course, they already have it's a college town, so there's a liberal bias. And you have those two large enclaves pretty much canceling out any other effective votes you get together.
Well, I'll tell you some of the names that are popping up on this, and I apologize. I had a list of folks, and I forgot at my office. But right now, what we've got, some of the folks that have declared on the Democratic side that I'm seeing, Pat Murphy says he's going to run.
Yes.
Pat Murphy is a big labor guy in Cedar Rapids,
absolutely,
and he can pull a lot of that labor money in. But the reporting on him is that his reputation precedes him with a lot of Democrats. A lot of Democrats don't like him. Liz Mathis, who is I believe that she was on TV when I lived over in Eastern Iowa. I think she's running, and she would be.
She used to be a weather gal, I think.
She was an anchor. She was an anchor of the nightly news. Yeah.
Yep.
You got Rod Blum, is a Republican, who's thinking about it. I also hear that Craig Paulson is considering a run.
Really?
Yeah, that would be an interesting run from his perspective. But I don't think that he would. Liz Mathis isn't going to run. I guess she'd been rumored to, and she announced that she wasn't going to.
Okay.
But I know that Craig Paulson is thinking about it, and I know that Tyler Olson resigned his seat at the top of the Democratic Party here in Iowa. He's a state representative right now. And he's thinking about putting his toes in the water to either run for Braley's seat or run for governor. That's what I've been hearing. He hasn't figured out. He's going to do one or the other.
Okay.
It would be interesting. Gronstal has talked about running against Branstad. It'd be interesting to see if he was going to try and go for Braley's. Well, he can't. He lives in Council Bluffs. Never mind. Yep. So we're just talking about some of those folks that are from that area. So it's going to be interesting. And it certainly is in my opinion, it's a more up for grabs race for Braley's old seat than it is for Tom Harkin's seat. I think that Braley is going to do pretty well. I don't think that anybody could really touch him, but it's 2014. It's an off election, and everybody hates everybody in the government and in the federal government, and that could weigh against him.
I think that. Whoever on the Republican side tries to challenge Braley is really going to face an uphill battle. I think that if they get out, they start fundraising early, if they can land a major political fundraiser. Nicole Schlinger is the name. If whoever she decides she's going to back, most likely is going to be in a good spot. Not always, because she backed Jim Gibson in my congressional race, and it was Brad Zahn that won. So having Nicole, Darrell Carney, people of that ilk support a candidate, that will mean a great deal to the success of the Republican Party. If these fundraisers don't come on until late in the primary, I think the Republicans don't stand a chance of winning that seat. We're coming to the close of another show. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We're on Facebook, Twitter, something else now, and obviously we're on. We have our own YouTube channel, so you can check us out there. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll be back next week. Webcast1live.com. Lefty, any last words?
You wrapped it up.
All right.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Hi, I'm Representative Tom Shaw, and I love these guys. Both of them.
Love these guys. Get over here. Get over here. Love both of them.